us love, even through our mistakes, even through the whatever bad stuff we really did. We still need to know we need to love ourselves. And that from the beginning. But I also know that many of us didn't. I heard it from certain places in my life. Other places I was the bad kid because I was a rebel. Anybody a rebel here? Just a few of you, good. There are two reasons why I feel that you need to know this. The first one is to really love yourself. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. You have to let that one go. I know it took me a long time to figure that one out, because what I did mattered to everybody else. But truth is, they don't really care. Because we have our faults, we have our things, but we're still who we are today. And all those things that happened along the way have made us who we are today. And then the second thing is, which to me is probably the most important, is that when you really, really, really love yourself, that means you know what it feels like. You know what I mean by that? You know what love feels like. And you know what it feels like inside. And that's really the purpose why we're here. Because when we know how it feels inside, then we can give it away. And the love that we have inside is the same love that we're giving to someone else. And hopefully they can feel that same thing. Or they learn to say, oh, maybe it's okay for me to feel that way. Science of Mind, I hope this will go forward. It says, that, oh, I'm flashing today. We need to unflash me if we can. Okay. She'll get it. She'll get it. I know I'm good, but not that good.
It started to flash when you said you need to love yourself.
It was God. Okay, got it. All right. Anyway, I think I clicked one of the wrong buttons. So, Science of Mind says this. It says, ultimately, we shall see that the universe rests on the shoulder of love, that God is love, and that all the errors of man are the result of ignorance of his or her own true nature. An evolved soul judges no one, condemns no one, but realizes that they are on the road of experience, seeking the same goal, and that each of us must ultimately find his or her home in heaven. Feeling that heaven, that you have arrived. Has anybody felt that at all? Ever in your life? Have you arrived? Not yet. Okay, I have. I've felt that. Fleeing sometimes, but I felt it. I feel it when I'm at the dog park with my dog. And I watch him. I did this yesterday because he loves to get beat up. It's very interesting. This little dog that thinks he's this big. He's actually this much shorter than Bodie now. I'm like blown away. Anyway, finding heaven is about living a spiritual life. And here's some things I'm just going to point out. One is it's consciously understanding that spirit or love expresses itself as us, that we get to be that. We are given that. We're born with that. It's something that if we don't have, we can learn, and that we can eventually give it away. That any divinity starts with us when we recognize our divinity. I don't know about you, but I didn't see my divinity at all for a long, long time. And then I wandered for about 40 years. I'll talk about that later. And then I came back. When we are conscious of the energy of love, then we can transform friends, our community, businesses, people that, I work with the young now because I'm older than them. And it's so interesting to me to watch them be so stressful. I mean, really over the top. And knowing that who I am and how I can be with them is that I never say I love you, although I want to. I just say, you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You'll get through this. I see how stressed you are. I acknowledge them. It doesn't have to be, I love you. It could be other words that make them feel better. It's the same thing. That's the consciousness of, helping your community. Think about somebody you know who could use that. Is there anybody in your life you know could use that? All of you do. Good. The other thing is that intuition is the way that spirit communicates to us. When we really, really listen to our intuition, then we get in the flow. And I'm going to talk a lot about that today. So I'm going to show you, the next time I show you, you're going to see this, you're going to hear this twice, but you're going to see it once. The CSL camp created this. And Sylvia, where are you?
Right there.
Oh, wait, okay. I don't know I don't know the music to this, but there's got to be a rhythm. So when you see this, I want you to see if you might understand what that is. It's probably a real simple song.
Okay.
But the teens came up with this. It's really profound, really profound. I love myself so much so that I can love you so much, so that you can love you so much, so you can start loving me. Isn't that profound?
Yeah, that's awesome.
The teens came up with that. I love you, I love myself so much, so I can love you so much, so you can love me so much, you so much, so that you can start loving me. Pretty amazing that they would think of that and then come up with that, and that became their theme. This is their theme. So when they go to camp, they sing this to each other. Just blows me away. Blows me away. They're so bright. You know, in Science of Mind, we often say the word God is synonymous with love, because God is all there is, which means that love must be all there is. But I don't know about you, and I hear this more often than I would like to say, that because the world and the news is filled with war, with violence, division, it's really hard to see God. Don't you have that feeling sometimes? It's really hard. And it's hard to see what resides behind the darkness. What is behind that? What's behind that is that love does not exist. It may exist, but it's really hard. Candace is online. There she is, yeah. We were meeting once a month now, and we were talking about Ukraine and how, and in fact there was something on the ministers' listserv about Ukraine, and the women who have they have a center there, and the theme of their center is all about love. And so during this wartime, they're teaching classes about love, survival, peace. How do you create peace in a place that's warbound? And it's pretty cool to watch and to hear and to see that other people are gathering around to help them keep this alive. When they first started bombing in Ukraine, they were underneath the subways underneath. And they were underneath praying 24/7. Praying for their country, praying for their friends, praying for the animals. That's love. It's pure love. Pure love. So what they really were doing is being the example, which is exactly here. We're not in a war. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the TV and the radio, but that's out there. In here is our love that we have the opportunity to give away. But we first have to know why. Why are we giving this away? We don't just give it to everybody. We have to start first with ourselves. When we really love ourselves, the rest is easy. The rest is easy. So I'm going to encourage us today to go a little deeper into this. And I'm going to talk a little bit about me, about my mistakes that helped me get to a place where I could love me. Because it was not easy in my life when I was growing up. I was bounced around from house to house. Anybody bounced around from house to house? Yeah. It's really strange when you do that, because you never know where you stand. But eventually you find out who really loves you and who doesn't. So the first thing is I'm going to talk about intuition. But I'm also going to say that intuition, learning about your intuition, unless you are just really really, really in it when you were a kid, and you got, oh, that's my intuition talking to me. You didn't know what that meant. Did you know what that meant when you were little? No, had no clue. So learning about your intuition and listening to your intuition is a process. And so what I'm going to talk about, I want to see if you can resonate with me on this. And I also want to say that what I'm initially going to say is not is contrary to what I've said before, but it's a progression, as you'll see what I mean in a minute. So on the path of discovering what intuition is, we are, and see if you can relate to this, we are compelled, right? We're compelled to go date that person, get that job, go here, but we're compelled. But yet we're not fully conscious. So guess what happens? We have experiences and lessons that we have to go through. But we always say, no, but that was my intuition telling me. No, it wasn't. You were compelled. There's a difference between being compelled and using your intuition. But that's the first step, is awareness. So we're aware. So I want you to remember the word compelled. And as we begin to grow spiritually, we begin to trust. There's this thing that keeps talking to me. I don't know what it is. It says these little tiny words that kind of nudge me, right? That's what intuition, it nudges us. And then all of a sudden we hear it and we go, well, maybe I'll follow that. And then when I follow that, we start to see it in front of us. Oh, that worked. Okay, maybe I'm listening to the right thing. I'm tuning in. Then as we begin, and this is the thing I talk about, as we begin to live our intuition. In other words, it guides us every part of the day. It guides us to the people we need to see, to the words that we speak, to the feelings that we have inside. What happens is our spirituality enlarges. We become more aware. And truth is our path becomes easier. Has anybody experienced that? As you start to listen, your path starts to get easier. So let's go back to the word compel. When we are compelled, and I'll give you some exact examples in a little bit. When we are compelled and we think we're listening to our intuition, is that we do experience lessons. Things fall apart. They don't work right. We hurt ourselves. We hurt others. We do things that aren't necessarily how we would like to live. What's the benefit of that, though, is they become stories. So today when I'm up here talking to you, I'm giving you stories of how I thought I was listening to my intuition, but I wasn't. I was compelled by something that made me happen. But it's those stories that help us to understand how to better listen to our intuition and to trust our intuition. The idea is that it inspires other people to go, oh, maybe if I listen to that one, go down the other street instead of the same street where I'm going to hurt myself. And sometimes we have to convince ourselves that that's really your intuition. Has anybody done that one? I have. I've had to say, no, compel, go away. Take care of me first. In Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes says, intuition is spirit knowing itself. Now, I've heard that before, and I got it, but I didn't really get it, and today I really get it. When I really listen to that little part of me that in the Bible it says the still small voice, when I really get that, then I know that's God talking to me. And it doesn't have to be a conversation, be a couple words. But it's knowing me, it's knowing who I am and guiding me along that path. How many here thought that when you were born, you're supposed to fit in? Raise your hand. Supposed to fit in, right? Didn't mom and dad say, enough of that, go fit in with that crowd, right? And if they didn't say fit in, they would nudge you. They didn't really tell you, but they go, come on, be a better boy or girl, go do this, right?
Like the other kids. Yep.
Be like the other kids. That's a good one. Anybody have another one? In other words, conform. Conform. Well, as I was writing this and I was reading this and I thought, well, that wasn't me. I know that I was a rebel from the very early stage of my life. And I think it probably, well, we won't go into my history of childhood, but the bottom line is it came from somebody. I think it came from my mother, which, thank God, it did. So I'm going to give you some examples. And when I talk about myself, I want you to listen to your own self and who was I at those ages? What happened to me at that time? Because those are the things that moved us along the path to doing one thing, and that was to get to know ourselves. Because we had to get to know ourselves along the path of life. So here's the first one. I got mad at the church at an age 9. I was a Baptist. I'd been baptized, I'd done all this stuff. But I got mad at them because somebody said to me on Easter Sunday, you don't have an Easter Sunday dress. And I said to the little girl who said that to me, I don't come to church to have an Easter Sunday dress. Yay! I'll never forget that. A little tiny girl, blonde hair, pretty dress, and I said that to her. I'm like, I don't come here for that. So for me, I left the Baptist church at that moment. But I could feel the loss. I know I felt something because I was very connected to this divine way back then. And so for 40, I put here, at about age 47, so that's how many years? Almost 40 years, I wandered. I wandered into different churches. I wandered into different religions. I was a Pentecostal for a little bit, It was like, oh, that was fun. I didn't know what I was doing, but I thought I did. The point being is that I was wandering around trying to find me. Find this God that was, I had, the one thing I love about the Baptist church is that they have this great music. Yes. This real deep soul music. And so it's just I didn't quite believe the things they were telling me, but I loved the music. So anyway, around 47 plus, I found Signs of Mine. At age 16, I'm going to go up in years here. At age 16, I rebelled against my badminton coach. I did. That was pretty good back then, but I was goofing off. So much at a tournament, and I'll never forget this tournament, because I think I've talked about this. I was playing this girl, I should have just creamed her, like, you're dead. But I want to have some fun. I was a little kid, I wanted to have some fun, right? I got off the court and my coach pulled me aside and said, well, you should have creamed her. And I went, so what? I won. She was so mad at me. She said, well, this is the last time I'll give you advice. You're on your own. Ooh, 16 years old, I'm on my own. And you know what? And I played all the way through college. And she did not give me any advice.
Lucky you.
No. She was good. She was really a pretty amazing woman. In my 20s, I became the very first female salesperson in San Diego, calling on hardware stores. First female as a salesperson. Cute little thing I was. Cute little thing. Boy, those guys liked that too. And it was scary sometimes. I had one guy said, well, come on out here with me. Took me into a big garage where they checked everything in and closed the doors on me. Scary. I looked at him and I said, open those doors. He looked at me like, I said, open those doors. And I never went back. It scared me. Again, very different experiences, learning about myself, learning about life, learning about things that are going on. Learning about who I am as a person. I'm only 20 years old. I'm going to go in series here. At age 35, I left a really good job, making more money than my age in thousands. I had something within me but I had a great job, but I had saved $14,000 and thought, I can live off of that. Back then you could. Back then you could. And I went in business with somebody who I thought had it all together. And it turned out that they didn't have it together, and I paid for it. It took me 20 years to pay off the debt off of that. Big lesson. But the good part of that is it led me to Science of Mind. My collapse led me here to do what I'm doing today, to build my own life. And the last thing I'll say, because I think all of these are important. You see how this grows? We start to learn about life. We start to have those compelling, I got to be in business by myself and leave a really good job. But I changed jobs a lot because I thought that business, they wanted me to do things that weren't ethical. That was my ignorance. Remember the ignorance part we quoted a minute ago? What I didn't know is that's how business worked. You did favors for people. You helped them out. You went out of your way for them. That's what I do now. And I don't do it because I'm not ethical. I do it because I care. A whole different way. It's because I love me to love them, to help them. It's a different way of being. But I didn't get that when I was a little girl, in my early years. So the thing is uniformity and conformity were designed methods to control us, making us do the right thing. But we had to learn on our own, right? Did anybody here have to learn on their own? I'm not alone here, I hope. The thing is, I was continuously looking to learn who I was, because I think I was very unique. I think everyone here was very unique in their own way, because we had to defy the norm, right? We had to figure out how to stand out, how to get, I don't want to say noticed, but to be seen. To be seen. And we really didn't get seen until we were 40 or 50, because anything below that, we didn't know enough. At least they didn't think we knew enough, even though our bosses were just a few years older than us. The ultimate here is that something happened along the way where I got to be transformed. And what I want to say is, and I did this out of sequence, but when I finally came to Science of Mind, I was broken. I was terribly broken. So much that I just said, I have to figure out what happened to me. What was all this? What was all this happening to me? And so, when I came to Science of Mind, I mean, I've told this story before. I sat in the back row for 6 months and cried. I had people say, you want to pray? And I'm like, oh God, don't pray over me. I was afraid of them. I was afraid of, what are they going to, But pretty soon this message started coming through to me about, God's here. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll take a class. So I took a class. And they're talking about all this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, I don't get it, man. I don't get all this. And I wasn't having a good day. And we're in a class that's maybe about twice the size of this alcove, and the room was packed with people. And I said, they're talking, and I raised my hand. I said, I don't get any of this. I don't feel that way at all. Now, I had been going about 6 months. And the teacher, Jerry, he wasn't the Reverend, it was just Jerry. I don't remember his last name, but I absolutely adored him. He stopped the entire class, and he said, and I've been going there enough that people kind of knew who I was. And he said, okay, I want everybody in this classroom to tell Suzette something good about herself. Tell me what you know about her. And they went around the room. Touches me. It went around the room, and they said so many nice things about me that when I left that class, I was different. I was changed. And so what I want to say to you today is that they told me this out loud. And so I have the list up here that I'm going to have you read with me, because to me this is the essence of who we are on a spiritual path. And that we need to know this, because when we really know what they told me, and you all get it, you'll get it. They told me this out loud. You're a child of God. You deserve to experience the richness of the divine. I didn't know what that meant. You're intelligent. Oh, who told you you were intelligent? You know inside what to do. I had no idea what to do, but they kept saying that to me. Listen and follow your intuition. Pain is a lesson of its own, and I want to talk just a moment about that. Pain became a lesson for me. When I felt pain, I knew I was going in the wrong direction. Really important. So I have a very small threshold for pain now. When I feel it, I go, ooh, and then I start to think, what do I need to do to change? Living a spiritual life is not living on quicksand. We've heard that, the story from the Bible. It's a constant process of living consciously. We cannot be spiritually fed if we are not aware and paying attention. Life is giving us food all the time, but if we're kind of hanging out there and not paying attention and not being conscious about it, then it's going to bite us. That's all I got to say. I started to see others differently as child of God, and all with the same birthright. I never looked at people like that. I looked at them as, you're my friend, you're my enemy. You're my friend, I don't know about you. And all of a sudden I started looking at people differently. So even now, today, I see homeless people on the street, and it's like, I know they have the same birthright as me. They just aren't there yet. Or they're there, and that's where they want to be, and that's okay with me too. There's nothing wrong with that. But I see them differently. Life is more about choices and consciousness. I hated that one. I have to make a decision here. I have to be conscious here. I was dating somebody that I just was so bad for me. But it felt good, at the time. That's the one I had to go down the other road. I had to choose that road. And I remember the day I did it, and I went, oh, good for you. You took a little corner, but you went down the different road. I had to choose. And then the last thing was the seeds of love planted today that I was planting would become the trees where everyone can enjoy the fruits of that love. That was one I wasn't quite ready for. It took me a long time to figure that one out too. But I know today, going through the process of being a practitioner for 7 years, a minister now, do you know him as 15 years old? Doing this for 15 years, that I see that as truth. I know that what I say here, I plant the seed. Whether you get it or not, I don't worry about that. I know it's a seed that's gonna grow somehow, some way in you. And if you go away and don't ever come back, at least I planted a seed. And you'll figure it out along the way. We're going to go probably 5 minutes over here. The third thing I want to mention is this idea of unconditional love. When we can unconditionally love ourselves, even with our faults. I even showed up to class not on time this week. Yeah. Oh my God. It was awful. And we talked about being vulnerable. It was the biggest vulnerability for me. But you know what? I feel like I've done a good enough job that they went on without me. They didn't even need me. So once I showed up, they were like, hey,
That's good that
we already got, I'm glad you showed up. But there's so much unconditional love there. Truly unconditional. And to me, that's what we teach here. That's what I want you to feel. I want you to be 100%. Because that's all that there is. It's all that there is. And if you can rely upon it every moment you come here, every moment you're on a class, every moment you do anything for Om, or for somebody else, and you know what, gee, that came from home, then I've done my work. I've done my work, and so have you. So I mentioned this song with the kids. What we're going to do today is, I'm going to see if I can bring it back up. Oh, yeah, there it is we're going to say this out loud, because I love this. I just think this is amazing. So we're going to do this together 3 times, because I think you hear it enough. Can you guys, everybody see it okay? All right, so let's say this together. I love myself so much so that I can love you so much, so you can love you so much, so you can start to love me. Doesn't that feel good? Let's do it one more time. I love myself so much so I can love you so much, so you can love you so much, so you can start to love me. It's really powerful. You might want to all get your cameras out and click that one and put that as something to read yourself every single day. Every single day. I said 3 times. You want to do it again or not?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do it one more time. Here, I'll ring the gong. Go. I love myself so much so I can love you so much, so that you can love you so much, so you can start to love me. Wow. Very powerful. Very powerful. Marianne Williams says this. Yeah. Love is the essential existential fact. It is our ultimate reality and our purpose on earth. To be consciously aware of it, to experience love in ourselves and others, is the meaning of life. This is why we're here. We're here to inspire more love in the world. And I know some days it's not every day, but if you can do it maybe once a week, and then you see the results of that. I love when I get to a place where I'm kind of the third party and I'm listening here and I'm going, and I interject some piece of love. I don't have to say I love you, but something that helps someone. I feel so much better by just being able to be there. And I know I'm not invasive. If I were invasive, they would reject me, but instead they're like, oh, thanks. You can see it. You can feel it within them. When we love ourselves, we can love others more fully. When we really, really get that. And when we do that, we send what I call a ripple out into the world. And we transform people. We change them. We change them. And I say this all the time here. I'm going to say today, love yourself. But what else do I say? Give it away. Give it away. All the things that we teach here, I want you to know them so deep and so profoundly that you give them away. You are changing life and society and children and people when you do that. This was in the talk, and I'm just going to say it because I think it's important, and I've never really read this before. But, you know, having a spiritual practice, now I don't want all of you to go hiking tomorrow, okay, or next Sunday. But having a spiritual practice doesn't just mean prayer and meditation. I'm giving you permission today to see God in other places. It's giving yourself self-love. In fact, what was it in the newsletter today? Jackie was knitting. You saw that smile? Oh my God, that was the biggest smile I've ever seen her have. That was self-love. You know what my self-love is? You're going to laugh. It's riding my John Deere. I'm cutting my weeds down. I mean, with that little tiny rain that we had for what? The storm we had last week.
Yes.
My weeds were that tall. I'm like, I'm not going to weed whack those suckers. I'm going to get my John Deere out and I'm going to ride around and kill them. Oh, sorry. I'm going to recycle them. But self-love consists of things like exercising. A lot of you guys like to exercise. Going for a hike somewhere. Doing a puzzle. Find the thing that makes you feel like, oh, I don't have to think about anything else but just me. or figuring things out, and they put on here playing Candy Crush on your phone. I actually know of a minister that does that. I'm like, you play Candy Crush? Whatever. The point is, it's different for everybody. Everybody has their own. I want you to take a moment, just think, what is yours? And then we're going to do a little popcorn here, because I like doing that. Okay, tell me what your thing is that you love to do. It doesn't involve anybody else. Come on.
Tag with my cat.
Tag with your cat.
5-mile walk.
5-mile walk.
Going into the art studio.
Art studio. Oh, yeah, Mama. You just live there. Knitting. Yeah. What else?
Playing music.
Playing music. Yeah.
Sitting on my deck in the morning and just waiting for the day to.
Yeah. Watching the sunrise. Yeah. Love it. What else?
Drawing and doodling.
Drawing and doodling. Working in the garden. You bet.
Writing.
Writing. Yes.
Crocheting.
What's that? Crocheting. Okay. Mine's Baskin and Robbins. I've been having it too much lately, and that's why I don't think I'm losing some weight. Anybody else? Anybody else?
All those things.
All those things. Okay, you got it.
Yes.
I want you to do those things. Those are for you. And if you really love talking to people and that's your thing, that's cool too. But sometimes it's just being with yourself, and there's nothing else that's interfering with what you're doing. You just get to be. Capital B-E. So, I'm not going to end with the song Endless Love, but I'm going to say that's what I want you to remember today, is to give yourself this endless love. Because when you become the example of endless love, it's just like when I was in that classroom and that practitioner that was leading the class. In fact, one of the people that was next to him was now a reverend, Gene Phillips. We're still good friends. I'll never forget that day. That was endless love that was given to me. And I want you to have the exact same thing. That find that thing that you remember that guided you to that place of being inside. And to remember who you are. Because that's endless love. And that's beautiful. And you deserve it. So we're going to end with a quote, and if you feel like it, I'd like you to stand up and let's say this 3 times, and then we'll bring back Leslie. First time we whisper it to ourselves, which is speaking to, who's our friend back there? Our little friend dog. Hi. Yeah. And so we'll whisper it to our soul, we'll speak it to ourselves, and then we'll tell the world. So you ready? Let's whisper it. I have the courage to be who I am and love myself out loud. Now just speak it to yourself. I have the courage to be who I am and love myself out loud. Now let's tell the world this. Let's send that vibration out into the world. I have the courage to be who I am and love myself out loud. And so it is. So it is.
Whenever I have hurt in my heart, I ask, what will love do? Whenever I don't know where to turn, I ask, what will love do? Whenever I don't know what to say, I ask, what will love do? What will love do? Anytime that I'm stuck in my pain, I ask, what will love do? Anytime that I feel ashamed, I ask, what will love do? Anytime I can't find my truth, I ask, what will love do? What will love do? makes no demands. Love will lead me to the truth and help me to understand that life is all about love. When I have something hard I need to say, I ask, what would love do? When it seems another block is in my way, I ask, what would love do? When it seems I can't face another day, I ask, what would love do? Tell me, what would love do? Oh yeah, what would love do? Love has all the answers. Love makes no demands. Love will lead me to the truth and help me to understand that life is all about love. In any situation, I ask, what would love do? When I'm feeling limitation, I have to ask, what would love do? I need to look into my soul and ask, what would love do? What would love do? Oh yeah, what would love do? What would love do? I have to look into my soul, look into